The Chronicles of Narnia coming to Netflix. Do you think this is a good idea or a bad idea? Let's talk about that in the comments. Welcome to Durbania. I'm Durbin with the Chronicles of Narnia coming to Netflix. I'm curious as to whether you think that's a good idea or a bad idea. Personally, I don't just think it's a good idea. I think it's a fantastic idea. I think Netflix is the perfect environment, the perfect place for the Chronicles of Narnia to just freaking thrive and reach the full potential that it should have reached when it was being released on the big screen all those years ago. So I'm super excited to talk about this, and I'm super excited to know what you think. One of the reasons I think this is a fantastic idea is a series of unfortunate events. I mean, I loved those books when I read them the first time. Then the Jim Carrey movie came out, and I didn't like that so much because they took 3 books, they shoved them into one movie because the books are short. I mean, they are. They're short, so I get how it could be hard to take a full-length film out of the first book, but they took 3 books and shoved them in there, and I just felt like it lost its character. It lost its flavor. It's not that it was all bad, but as a whole, it lost what made the book so special to me. And then fast forward to now, where we have this series on Netflix, and it's fantastic. I mean, you take the first book, A Bad Beginning, and they made 2 episodes out of it. And out of those 2 episodes, they were able to do a lot to just bring us into the universe, to translate things. It's easy to get when you're reading it in words on a page, but it's hard to get when you're translating it over to film. And by doing 2 episodes out of 1 book, they were able to take that time. But they're also, they're not limited by the fact a movie has to be 90 minutes. A movie can't be any longer than this or any shorter than that. And that book is super short. And so they weren't limited by that. And they got to take the time to do what they wanted to do. And I feel like they've done a great job with a series of unfortunate events. I feel like they get the books. So even the places where they depart the letter of the book, they haven't departed the heart of the book. They haven't departed the heart of the series. So it maintains its flavor and what makes it unique and what makes it really good. And I want that same thing for the Chronicles of Narnia. When you look at The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, it's a children's book. And look at this thing. It's so... Look how small this is. It is so short. But when you bring it to Netflix, you don't have to come up with a million different ways to either fill a 90-minute runtime or a 2-hour runtime or whatever. You can just do what is necessary to make the book come to life. I like the idea out of this one teeny tiny book doing 2 episodes, because there's a lot of things that are on the page that are probably kind of hard to translate over to the screen. And so by taking 2 episodes with it, you could really find other creative ways to communicate that same thing and draw us into that universe. So I really think Netflix is kind of unlimited here because they're not bound by certain runtimes. They're not bound by certain rules that maybe movies and studios have. And so it gives them more liberty and more freedom to dive into the books. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about, though, is Netflix. You got a real challenge ahead of you because C.S. Lewis is brilliant in the way that he writes. One of the things that I love about this Chronicles of Narnia book series is how they're written for children, so they're easy to read, and you can read like Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe in a day or less. Like, it's a super easy read. But every time you go back to it, there's another layer to uncover. There's another layer of depth. There's something new to find. So every time you read it, it's like you're reading a new book. And one of the things that I love, these are Christian novels. Their message is not watered down. And the more you go through and read it, the more stuff like that you can find. And it just brings it to life. And so that's awesome. But C.S. Lewis struck a balance. The Christian message is in here, not watered down and strong, but it's not preachy, it's not heavy-handed, and it doesn't just smack you in the head with it. I mean, for instance, when I was 18 years old and I read Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe for the first time, I'd been a Christian all my life. I always took my faith serious, but I just had this picture in my head that Jesus had 0 personality and was emotionless. Because every way that I'd ever seen him portrayed is, he's got a British accent for some odd reason and blue eyes and has no emotions whatsoever. Then I read Aslan. And through this picture of Aslan, without it being heavy-handed, it's just a character. And he's describing a character. The way this character interacts with the other characters, the way this character talks. He's got so much personality just by the picture it presented. I wanted to get deeper in my faith and know the real Jesus better. And so that's one reason that these books are just so close to my heart. And so Netflix, that's something you got to do. You got to read these books and get to know them well and understand C.S. Lewis and understand the way he writes and understand his balance. So that I'm not worried about you being preachy, Netflix. I don't think you'll take the show and make it preachy. I'm worried that you might water down the message. So I implore you, don't water it down. Study C.S. Lewis. Study the way that C.S. Lewis wrote and the way he did these characters, and strike the balance that C.S. Lewis himself struck. Remain true to the heart and message of these books. And when you put it on the screen, even in those places where you have to depart from the letter, it's gonna be just fine. So stick to that. Now your next challenge is gonna be, how do you release this? Because do you release this in the order C.S. Lewis wrote them? It's the order the movies were starting to do when they did the first three, Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, Prince Caspian, Voyage of the Dawn Treader, or do you want to do them in chronological order? Now here's your advantage to chronological order. We'll get a mixture of things we've never seen put to the screen with the stuff that you're rebooting. So we'll get Magician's Nephew, followed by Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, and Horse and His Boy. We have never seen Magician's Nephew and Horse and His Boy on the screen, but we have seen Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe 3 different times. So we would get something we've already seen, but mixed with fresh stuff that we haven't seen. So if you do it in chronological order, we could get it that way. But my heart is with how C.S. Lewis wrote it. And if you do it in the order that C.S. Lewis wrote it, it's so awesome to go back in time by the time you get to the 2 prequels, and it makes a lot of sense out of those prequels and what's happening in those prequels with the foreknowledge of what's coming. Now, thanks to the movies and the books being out for years, we kind of already have that. So you probably could do chronological order and be fine. My heart, though, is kind of with doing it the order C.S. Lewis wrote. But honestly, whatever order you choose, I'm fine with, as long as you stick to the heart of the books, as long as you study C.S. Lewis and study the way that he wrote, and as long as you really capture the essence of the balance that he had in writing this. If you could capture what C.S. Lewis captured when he wrote those books, I am going to be happy. I understand nobody's perfect. I get it. But just study C.S. Lewis and study these books, and if you stay true to the heart of it, it's gonna be fine. So, what do you guys think? Do you like the idea of Netflix getting Chronicles of Narnia? Do you think Netflix is a good platform to really grow Narnia? Let's talk about that in the comments. And while you're there, hit the subscribe button to become a Durbanian. Hit the bell by the subscribe button so you're notified for my next movie reviews, theological analyses, ranking videos, or anything else I do. I'm Durbin. Thanks for checking out Durbania.